Good Thursday morning, everybody. Welcome to Screen Junkies Universe here on Fandom Entertainment. I'm Dan Murrell, Spencer J. Gilbert, Danielle Radford.
Morning.
It's just the three of us today.
Just the three of us.
But we have so much news to talk about. Legitimately, there's a lot to go over today. Amy Pascal, one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, leaving Sony for Universal. We'll talk about what is the impact on the future, and more specifically, the Spider-Verse, which is something that she's been very active in producing. We've got a Willow. Disney. What was missing from Disney Plus? The answer is Willow.
We got some Willow.
JT has been jumping up and down all morning that we're going to talk about
Mad
Willow.
Mardigan.
He's calling everyone Peck. It's crazy. And I can't wait. It's going to be our last story. I can't wait to talk about it. Conan O'Brien is going to court because somebody says that he and his staff took their jokes. We're going to talk about that in
You stole my stories.
so much exhaustive detail. But I hope that no one else is covering this Amy Pascal story, or else we're going to go to court too.
Yep.
So let's get through it before anyone catches on. Amy Pascal is leaving Sony for Universal. This ends a 3-decade run for her at Sony Pictures. She's moving to a first deal look with Universal Pictures. She will, however, finish out the Spider-Verse and other Sony projects that she has started. She will see those through to completion. This comes at the end of a 4-year deal that just expired. This does not appear to be on bad terms, although Hollywood rarely lets it show when something ends on bad terms. But they were all pretty nice. Pascal said, "I can't imagine anything more thrilling than making movies for the team at Universal. Donna Langley's vision for the company is inspirational on every level, from the brilliant leadership team she's assembled to the studio's diverse selection of movies to the impressive filmmaking partners who call Universal home." So Amy Pascal excited about her new home. Sony, in response, said, this is Donna Langley from Sony. Everyone's just very nice to each other. Everyone's happy and very nice. This follows the news we talked about earlier this week of Lord & Miller. They just signed a 5-year deal with Sony Pictures TV to invest in many projects, a big chunk of them being further expanding into Spider-Verse type projects, series, shows, movies,
Things,
who knows,
everything,
things,
toys.
everything. The upcoming Spider-Verse slate that we're looking at, of course, an Into the Spider-Verse sequel, a Spider-Gwen spinoff, a sequel to Venom, which is a movie that Amy Pascal directly produced, Morbius with Jared Leto, and now all of the new Lord & Miller TV stuff. However, Silver and Black appears to have been shelved.
Yay.
Among reports that they might want to do them separately.
Boo.
Yeah.
So, first of all, if you don't know Amy Pascal, she is not just one of the most powerful women in Hollywood. She's one of the most powerful producers in Hollywood. She started by developing Groundhog Day and A League of Their Own, amongst other films. She's decades at Sony. She ran Columbia for a while. She produced Venom. She produced the Spider-Man. She was an executive that oversaw Zero Dark 30 and Social Network and Skyfall, the Daniel Craig James Bond movies. She helped broker the deal that brought Spider-Man into the MCU as a partner team with Marvel. She is a Hollywood power player. Before we get Spider-Verse specific here, what do you guys think in general about this? Is a big move from a big producer.
I'm a little confused because, so was she like a producer or an executive at Sony?
She was an executive that oversaw production on a lot of things, but she directly produced Venom, directly produced Spider-Man Homecoming, directly produced Ghostbusters. The new Ghostbusters was one that I've seen thrown out when everyone mentions something good she does. Recently she has been a direct producer on a lot of films. Before that, traditionally, she was very active, but as an executive who oversaw production, and which is, of course, also very active in development and shaping and et cetera.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the movies you throw out there are fairly recent, and some hits, a big miss in there. But
Molly's Game, The Post. There's some other films that she's done that are not just big franchises.
Sure, but that's all like the last couple years, and like you're saying, like 3-decade career. And I think you have to pull back when you're talking about these high-level executives, which is what I thought I thought she was more of like an overarching development.
Here's
person.
what happened. Sony got hacked.
Yeah.
Yep,
as you may remember. And the emails that came out about her were not great. Not good. And so her overarching job became a direct producing job.
Yeah. The only one that I remembered that I guess colors my impression of her is when the MTV guy wrote like Spider-Man should do dubstep and Tough Mudder and stuff like that, and she was really into that and forwarded along to the Spider-Man team.
I'm going home.
The kids like EDM. What if Spider-Man did an EDM? So look, I think for me you have to evaluate her on the whole body of work, and it's like some high highs, but she's leaving Sony in the dumps. I mean, they're a one superhero shop now, and like, granted, anyone that's not Disney and a few other conglomerates is in this position. Paramount's in this position. Other studios did not see which way the wind was blowing, but neither did Sony. And Sony Pictures is like always one of those ones that's rumored like who's gonna buy it, not like who are they gonna buy next.
Danielle, what do you think?
Will she make the mummy do dubstep? That is all I care about. I want the dark universe. I want it to be called the dank universe.
Yes. Okay.
I think I just made JT throw up.
It can't be. I heard like it sounded like a dry heaving sound. It can't be worse than what we got.
You know what? You are right. Yep.
So I could be. It wouldn't be hard to change that custom graphic that they made that they used one time to Dank Universe. It's just one letter.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to see what she does next. It's always interesting when we talk about people who are more producers, because we're so used to always talking about writers and directors, and previously mostly just directors and stars. We're just getting to the point where people actually seem to recognize that someone does have to actually put these words on paper, which has always been nice for me to see as a writer. So yeah, obviously A League of Their Own is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah, I'm excited to see what she does next. But again, I want it to be the Dank Universe.
It's the Dank Universe or nothing for Danielle.
Or nothing.
We have the Spider-Verse now. Lord and Miller locked in for a bit to help develop those projects. Amy Pascal sticking around to develop the ones that she's currently committed to. Do you think this has any impact on what happens next with that series of films or TV shows or whatever? It's going to be a lot of things now.
I mean, you wonder, I don't know the terms of the deal, but like she was there when the Spider-Man timeshare was negotiated with Marvel. So if she leaves and that thing has a time limit on it, what does her successor do with Spider-Man? Because they could, if they're quintupling down on Spider-Man, they can be like, well, actually, no, Disney, MCU, we don't want him to play anymore.
I mean, that is true. Spider-Man is currently a Sony character. While the films fit into the MCU, they're Sony movies.
Yeah, I do think that with Spider-Verse doing as well, it does seem like a lot of people, we talk about how Far From Home is gonna be what closes out this phase of the MCU, and a lot of people, that's kind of a puzzling thing, but it seems like maybe that is more Sony's call than it was Feige or anyone else's call. And I wonder, had they known how huge Spider-Verse was going to be, if that would have been the call that they made. And so it could be that they're like, oh yeah, well, we can let our kid play in your sandbox and get the money for him over here while we continue to make our really cool, visually amazing Spider-Verse stuff over here.
Yeah, and for people that don't know how the deal works with Sony and Marvel and Spider-Man, it's that Spider-Man branded movies, Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, are Sony movies. Feige has some producerial oversight, but they are Sony films, Sony executives. But the terms are that Spider-Man is sort of loaned to Disney for the other non-Spider-Man films in which he appears. So your Civil Wars, your Infinity Wars, your Endgames. That's sort of the trade-off is we get this sort of shine of having being part of this huge universe over here for Sony, and then for Disney you get to use the character. I'm sure there's a whole approvals process that happens.
But these deals usually have time frames attached to them, and I'm very curious as to how long the MCU Sony spider sharing agreement was for. It's
going to be interesting because I was reading, I was trying to refresh myself a little bit on the terms of the deal, and even when the deal was originally made, Sony they had to go to Ike Perlmutter, because he was still involved at the time. I mean,
it's like getting a soul stone. He's just got the cloak on.
Feige was also involved, but two of the main brokers of this deal now are no longer directly involved with the studios that they were. So I agree that the changing of the corporate tide is going to be interesting to track as far as what they decide to do. Because I agree. Largely, I think the perception is that Sony made this deal with Disney because Amazing Spider-Man 2 had not done well.
Yeah.
They were really at a dead end, and
Needs more dubstep.
They needed more dubstep, and instead they went with Kevin Feige and Marvel. But do you think? I mean, a lot of people say like, "Well, who cares? It's just executives. It doesn't matter." I mean, do you think largely that this will be? It's a big name changing hands. But in the long run, do you think this has an impact on the creative direction, or is it just sort of like, whatever?
I think it does, and I think it's one of the ways that people don't consider when the direction of a studio changes, how much of that has to do with the execs and with the producers and all of those things. We're definitely going to see a change. One thing that happens very often is when someone who is a huge power player at a studio leaves, a lot of their babies and things that they had already approved and said were going to happen suddenly gets axed as soon as the new person comes in. With Spider-Verse, that's obviously not going to be the case because that movie won an Oscar and it's too big. But some of the other projects, and that might be why she decided to stick around and make sure that some of these went to completion, to make sure that it just doesn't get completely cut when the new person comes in.
Yeah, because they'll keep what they have, but there's nothing to say. Whatever project she would have produced, not for Sony anymore. It's going to be for Universal. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, Amy Pascal, a big transaction in the behind-the-scenes part of the industry, which is really in front of the camera, just like on a 3-year delay. So we'll see how that plays out. We messaged this because people keep asking us about it, but Screen Junkies News, formerly, now Fandom Entertainment, the channel you're watching right now. As Joe says, it's the same, but, different name and different colors and some shapes and stuff and cool new graphics and everything that we like. But
we all still sit in the same place.
Except for today. But yeah, Screen Junkies News is now Fandom Entertainment. You can hit the bell. Subscribing and hitting the bell are two different things, and thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
And we want you to do both. But if you're watching and you're confused, if you were on vacation or something for the last couple of weeks, and you're like, "What is Fandom Entertainment?" It's us. It's still us.
It's just us.
We're doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
We just have a new name.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Not Phantom.
Phantom that they named it.
That's true.
Why are you giving out our Wi-Fi information?
Sony.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Yeah. About to say, we just talked about the Sony hack.
All of my emails just end with me saying more dubstep.
More dubstep. That is true. We have been internally calling for more dubstep in Spider-Man movies for years now. But yeah, Screen Junkies News is now Fandom Entertainment. Thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed, if you just stumbled upon us somehow on the internet and you like what you're seeing, hit the button.
Just start clicking stuff.
And then if you want a notification, then hit the bell.
Yeah.
We'd rather you hit the button than the bell, because if you hit the bell without subscribing, I don't think that does a whole lot for us. But if you're gonna do both, why not hit both? It's a whole new world of possibility for you.
And if you click here, we'll pause the video. And
Welcome
click
back.
Here again.
All right, thank you. Also, if you look down in the description below, speaking of Spider-Man, Tony Revolori, who is a friend of ours and a friend of Fandom and a friend of Screen Junkies, wrote a great article about being an MCU fan growing up and getting the chance to be an MCU character. Flash Thompson in the new Spider-Man movies. It's a great story.
Scale of 1 to 10, how old does that make you feel?
Extremely. Oh my God.
Wow.
He talks about, I told Tony this, he came in from Movie Fights last week. He talks about in the article about watching X-Men 2 in the theater when he was 7 years old. And it was the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I turned into dust. It makes me feel incredibly old. It's a great read, a lot of great insight into how the process works. His meeting with Stan Lee, which was incredible. So much fun info. So check that out. It's in the description below. It's a great read, and thanks to Tony for writing that. JTE, let's get to the story JTE's been wanting to talk about since the show started. Ron Howard is in talks to develop a sequel series to Willow. This is whenever we do a movie fights question, that's what movie that hasn't had a sequel deserves a sequel. Almost every time somebody says Willow. Ron Howard and solo writer Jonathan Kasdan are negotiating for a sequel series to Howard's 1988 feature Willow at, you guessed it, Disney Plus, the home of everything. The original film came from a George Lucas story developed by Lucasfilm. Ron Howard directed the film. This was back in the late 80s. A magical time. Willow centers on a dwarf named Willow Ufgood, who played by Warwick Davis, who was reluctantly forced into playing a role in protecting an infant named Elora Danan from an evil queen. Val Kilmer's in it. He plays Mad Mardigan. There are acorns that turn you to stone, soldiers that are turned into pigs.
Yeah.
The 80s were fun, you guys.
The 80s were definitely fun. In an interview on MTV's Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, Ron Howard said that serious discussions are ongoing from that Warwick Davis, who played the titular character in the original, would be returning.
Right.
The Willow series would be the latest addition to Disney Plus's original series slate, which debuts, not all of the series, but Disney Plus debuts here in the United States on November 12th. So first of all, are you up for more Willow?
Willow the series.
Willow the
Yeah.
series.
Interesting. So we're following an older Willow, I imagine?
Unless Warwick Davis is a time traveler,
Some
then
type
yes.
of mentor to Laura. JT, do you want to just like keep it on wide and run out and give your Willow thoughts?
Yeah,
come on out.
JT's going to come out and talk about Willow.
I have a hunch he's going to be interested.
I just revisited Willow not too long ago, and it is an
weird
interesting
movie.
movie.
Yeah.
JT, here,
Kind of
come over
episodic,
here, and what do you think about Willow?
Yeah, here's the thing. I think it's an underappreciated movie. It has a lot of lore. I think a lot of magic. It feels like he took some parts
lore,
of
a lot
Lord
of magic.
He took some parts of Lord of the Rings and was like, I'm going to make my own version of it. I actually went and saw a screening of this. Drew McWeeny actually did a Q&A with Ron Howard. This was like a couple months ago, I think. Maybe it was like March. I'm trying to remember. It was a couple months ago, and a lot of people there was filled. Josh Gad was like sitting right behind me. He brought his kids. He was loving it. So if Josh Gad wants more Willow, why don't you? The guy's delightful.
He has a lot of pull at Disney.
Yeah, and I do like, listen.
No Olaf.
No
Willow, no Olaf.
Exactly. Josh Gad, do it, buddy. You know what you're doing. Listen, I like Warwick Davis. I'm a big fan of his. I'm just like a big fan of fantasy. Like, I want to see some stuff with like, listen, Lord of the Rings is going to have their Amazon show. What else really is there for fantasy? Like, Game of Thrones is coming to an end. This ain't Game of Thrones, obviously. This is more family friendly. I just like it. They don't have to worry about going off books. They literally could just kind of do their own thing. And the fact that the original writer is coming on to actually write the series, or at least work with it with Ron Howard, I'm on board, man. I love it. Val Kilmer, maybe a little cameo. I don't know if he's going to be, maybe he'll be dead. I don't know.
In real life or on the
Why would you put that into the world?
I'm just saying, who knows? Times have changed. I want to see, I think everything's going to be good. The evil's going to start rising, Lord of the Rings style. And we get a new Mad Mardigan. I don't know who will play him, but they get a new up-and-comer. There's that kid that's doing He-Man. He's in all the Netflix shows. Throw him as a new Mad Mardigan or something. All I know is...
Noah Centineo.
There it is. That's what I was
didn't know his
thinking.
name. If Warwick Davis is back, Ron Howard is back, and the original writer, I'm 100% on board.
All right.
That's my piece.
JT on
Willow
board.
takes.
On board with more Willow. I've got to be honest. I watched it when I was younger. It was super weird. I didn't have the same connection to it that a lot of people do.
it's fine.
I revisited it recently. It's interesting, but people seem super jazzed up. We just saw it about more Willow.
They're not the same movie, but I was always more of a never-ending story gal.
I'm a Time Bandits guy myself.
See.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems good. I don't know. JT's super psyched, so that's one.
That's one.
We can assume that every JTE represents at least 1,000 people in our audience, maybe.
Easily.
That's about the JTE exchange rate I found.
Yeah.
1 to 3,000.
1 to 3,000. Yeah.
I guess that's look. JT made a good point. Is like it's not one of those like RoboCop reboots where you just kind of bring back the name because you have the IP. Like they're really bringing back the entire creative team, fully responsible for Willow. So, that's a little more encouraging than just being like we're just gonna take another Willow for a spin. Like no, this is an actual continuation from every standpoint of what people liked about the film. So yeah, why not? TV show? I guess the movie's very episodic. The movie is kind of like
It's a little episodic.
they wander across something, a fun little mini adventure happens, and they wander off to the next thing. So okay, it can lend itself to that.
And Disney's going to give it a budget of $400 million because they can.
Because they can. That's
I hope that this means we get more resurgence of that, like, I'm outdoors and then a fight happens. I don't know what that was called. I think it was just called Action Adventure Series or whatever. I think when I was a kid I used to call them like
sword and sand, like Hercules, Xena.
Yeah,
that style.
give me more of that stuff. I like that
All
stuff.
right.
Yeah, something they can shoot in Topanga for cheap. Not the Disney character, the town here in Northern California.
Thanks
People
for
don't always.
clarifying.
Well, listen, not everyone is a California resident, and I say Topanga, they think of Boy Meets World.
Sorry,
no, I'm
Danielle.
thinking about the shooting location north of north. Yeah, let's say north of here. I live here. I should definitely not know that. This is a further trip, however, for Disney Plus. They haven't really put a whole lot of spin on them, but another IP extension / spinoff for Disney. That seems to be what they're going to be relying heavily on, is either watch the thing you know you love or watch more of the thing that you know that you love, or that we think that we know that you love. Is this going to, long term, is this a strategy? Just find IPs that people like and invest heavily on those?
Yes.
Yep.
That is the reality of Hollywood today. I mean, you, as uninspiring as it seems to have like all these things you've already heard of, the fact is audiences are more likely to watch a new Willow show than a new thing they've never heard of from Sony called, The Gardening Prophet. It's like I'm sorry, it's just like the market has borne out that if you throw enough things people have heard of in one place, they will flock to it. And if you try to actually do something original and try to get people on board with something they've never heard of before, it's just harder.
And even when they do, on network TV, that's why you have Michael Schur, who has 20 shows out, because that's a name that people know and they trust. Oh, I like The Office, so I'm going to watch Superstore or whatever. Also, when The Office came out, all of a sudden everything had to be shot like a documentary. There is no good reason that Modern Family needed to be shot documentary style.
Who
but
are
it
they
was
talking
because
to?
it was familiar. Who are they talking to? Who is following this weird family? What is happening? But that's what they decided to do, and there's no good reason for it, but it's because it was what was popular and familiar.
Yeah, that documentary crew.
Yeah, I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Why are they doing today? Why are they talking to these parents on this couch?
Yes.
What is the deal?
There's a community episode that deals very specifically with that
I
trope,
love that episode.
which I also love. They did Star Wars. People were like, "Yay!"
There's
Doesn't
always
exist.
going
Yeah.
to be a kernel of psychopaths who are like, I am 100% into like Treasure Planet, and I'm sure you're all yelling at me right now.
That would be a massive.
That would be massive, actually.
What about Brother Bear?
Maybe.
Do you think if they were going to announce an extension to Brother Bear, or would that be the one that people were like,
No, I think that if they did Chippendale Rescue Rangers and they did it just Gadget, it would go through the roof.
Yeah.
"Oh my God, yes."
Yeah.
Like a just
Yeah.
Gadget. This is a weird aside. I'm vamping. When I first discovered the internet, I discovered that there used to be this thing called like web rings, where a bunch of like websites would center around one idea, and there were a lot of Gadget fan sites, and they would all have the same logo on them, which was a picture of topless Gadget from here up with her arms crossed and the Ghostbuster no on it, because they wanted to be very clear that there was no Gadget nudity allowed in their communities.
That is a very mixed signal.
Right. Yeah, to have topless Gadget.
Right.
It's doing things like it's a push-pull situation. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah, I feel like they doth protest too much.
No, we swear, we don't want to see your topless Gadget fanfic.
Well, we may see more next year.
Disney
Look out
Plus.
for that announcement from Disney Plus. So we will follow Willow news as it breaks. Mad Mardigan may be saddling up again. We'll know very soon, along with every other content piece of IP ever. Speaking of IP, there's an interesting intellectual property lawsuit that is about to hit a court in San Diego this month, later this May. Conan O'Brien,
I've heard of him.
beloved late night host, has been on the air since
Yes.
the 90s, former Simpsons writer. He's on TBS. You know who he is. He is set to appear in a San Diego courtroom on May 28th to face allegations from 2015 that he and his writing staff took jokes from a freelance comedy writer. The writer claims that the Conan team took 5 jokes from his blog and Twitter account back in 2015.
From his blog.
From his
joke
blog, from his joke blog and his Twitter account, says that they stole jokes that he'd already posted online and failed to credit him even after he called them out for it. The lawsuit names O'Brien, his production company Conoco, as well as TBS, Time Warner, Conan TV executive producer Jeff Ross, and head writer Mike Sweeney. This is the reason this is attracting some attention. The allegations of joke stealing are nothing new. They fly fast and furious. This is a new type of case because it's framing itself as copyright infringement of the writer's material so it can more specifically fit under the concept of theft. So joke stealing is obviously a very big idea. It's always sort of been categorized as theft in a like intellectual sense. This is trying to categorize it as theft in a actual sense.
Yeah, real causes harm sense.
This is a quote from a Vulture article that said, quote, as the first real court case to test the waters of accusing a respected writing team of pinching jokes from a lesser-known comedy writer online, the trial is likely to spark important debates about everything from copyright infringement to so-called parallel thinking, not to mention lay a foundation for every other case that could come next in the era of hashtag Frolic Jerry, where social media is actually being used to call out would-be joke thieves. While the wording was slightly different on each of these jokes on the show versus on the blog, the plaintiff and his attorneys are saying that they are similar enough to prove that they stole them from his blog. He has timestamp proof of them being posted before their usage on the show. Okay, so Ryan read the jokes to us.
Sure did.
Perfectly.
Great delivery.
Before the show started. And I think we all have some very strong feelings on this topic. So who wants to start?
Yeah, they seem like some pretty generic late night jokes that truly anyone could have. Dan, you guessed the punchline before one
I did.
of them was
Ryan
done.
put up the setup and I guessed the punchline immediately.
Yeah. And in the world of late night, like only 2 or 3 things happen worth talking about every night, and everyone's writing jokes about the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And this guy, I mean, shouldn't you steal from someone better? They weren't very good jokes.
There is literally, if you want to be a late night writer, and right now my Amazon Prime is not, because I have this book. I bought this book. It's called Comedy Writing for Late Night TV, How to Write Monologue Jokes, Desk Peaches, Pieces, Sketches, yada, yada, yada. A Desk Peach. Ooh, tasty peach. That was written by, I believe, by an old head writer for this. Literally, he goes through and he teaches you, okay, so here are the different formats for what would work in a monologue joke. You take something current, you do this, you do that, boom, you got a monologue joke. It's literally just a way of writing these. And so when we talk about parallel thinking, that's something that obviously everyone who's like a writer or a comedy writer, that's a phrase that we all know. For those of y'all who don't, when you say parallel thinking, it's literally like this idea is already out in the atmosphere. Essentially, it's a way of saying that this joke is so crappy and generic that anyone could come up with it. There's nothing specific about it. It is not so funny as to blow anyone's mind. It's just a crappy, regular, center-of-the-road joke, and anyone could have written it. And that is what, I'm sorry, dude, that's what these jokes are. Anyone could have written these.
If I was Conan O'Brien, I would be furious at my writing staff. Not for taking these jokes, but for giving me these jokes to say. These are the. I'm sorry. I'm not necessarily a comedy writer.
I think we should give the audience a for instance. What was one of them, right?
Ryan,
you gotta give.
Can I borrow you? Can you just put them in front of me? Let's just read these jokes, and you know what? Let's let the audience decide whether this is theft.
Yeah, don't take it from us.
Okay, so here's one of the jokes. Ready? These are the jokes that are included in the lawsuit. The first one from 2015. This is the joke as posted on the blog.
Can you do it as Conan O'Brien?
A Delta flight this week took off from Cleveland to New York with just 2 passengers, and they fought over control of the armrest the entire flight.
Because, see, what happens is when there are 2 people who are sitting next to each other, there's only one armrest.
Now,
I don't know if you guys knew that.
These are the original versions, but they're so substantially similar to what Conan said that he's being sued for copyright infringement. So these are the what I'm assuming the plaintiff is saying are the perfect versions of these jokes that were then called. Here's the second one, February 3rd.
So see, the Seahawks, which is a team in Seattle that I know a lot of, they were not very good at playing football one year. And Pete Carroll...
Yes, you thought a shrinking penis. You're correct.
This is like Dora the Explorer. What do you think the joke's about?
Swipe or no swipey, Conan.
All right. The Washington Monument is 10 inches shorter than previously thought. You know the winter's been cold when a monument suffers from shrinkage.
Hey, I'm drinking here.
And then the fourth joke that is, I'm not gonna say the fourth joke because it's a Caitlyn Jenner joke and nobody should say it. Not because it's a terrible joke and it's like, okay, here, I'll say it and then you tell me. 3 towns, 2 in Texas, 1 in Tennessee, have streets named after Bruce Jenner, and now they have to consider changing them to Caitlyn. And one will have to change from cul-de-sac to a cul-de-sacless. That's just terrible. It's not even a joke.
It's terrible in so many different ways.
But the thing about that one is if Conan said that verbatim or close to it, I believe they were stealing, because only a mind as horrible as his could come up with that. There's only one of one. Like you said, like most of the jokes don't have like a unique perspective. That's the product of a dark person. Like a very, very sad and twisted individual.
It says, while the wording was slightly different, each of these jokes was delivered on Conan. This is again from Vulture. They're saying that they are similar enough that it proves they stole them and that they have time-stamped proof for each joke that was posted online. Thank you, Ryan, for providing your... these are...
Well, my guess is that...
judges... I'm sorry. What judge is listening to this case? How did this not get thrown out immediately?
Well, anyone can sue for anything. That's the first thing. You can get stuff thrown out, but more than likely it's like, we'll just let the thing go. Also, they probably didn't throw it out because this is the exact type of case, which is probably why his lawyers took it, that a big company like a Conoco or a TBS or whatever would just go ahead and settle for some dumb amount of money to make this dude go away. The fact that Conan is saying, oh no, I'm showing up. I'm not giving you the payout that you want. Where at San Diego? What time? What date? Oh, I will be there. Because how dare you say that I said those jokes? Like the fact that he's not just saying, okay, well, we'll give you $5,000 per crappy joke so you go away. That's what's big about this. And that's why a judge wouldn't have thrown it out, because anyone can sue for anything, and they probably just figured this thing was going to go away on its own.
This is a ridiculous lawsuit.
He will
I'm sorry, this is absurd.
He's going to definitely pitch jokes to Conan on the stand. He's definitely going to be called as a witness and then be like, okay, I got some new stuff here, Conan. Approaching the bench. That's fun, right? More like a park bench. This court is for the birds.
Here's the question, and I know the answer to this. Would he settle this case if Conan said you can be on my writings?
Yes!
100%.
Right now!
100%.
Exactly, he would. This is... Okay. First of all, there's like actual cases of this that I want to get to the bottom of. I'm not saying there should be a lawsuit, but like, for example, SNL did a sketch about a pumpkin farm where you go to the pumpkin farm and the joke is that the person is screwing the pumpkins, and it's like it's kind of an offbeat, unique concept. And it came out that there was a video sketch that had come out earlier that was substantially similar about going to a pumpkin farm, and like there were turns that were the same. There were jokes, and I'm not saying it was a theft thing, but like that's a case where I would want to know, like, how did that happen? Like, was it just a crazy? Because it happens sometimes. It's a crazy 1 in a million thing where 2 writers had the same idea.
Was there a news story about someone who was banging pumpkins?
But like these are the things that I think that people should tell. Like, this is the hack. It's the hackiest, easiest jokes in the world, and for someone to say like, those are mine, I have timestamps and you stole them, like.
Timestamp, by the way, congratulations, like you posted that before. If they had like phone records or something of the writers like going to his dumb joke blog, that's another thing.
Yeah.
But he has no are any of the writers following him on Twitter?
Let's find out.
Oh, well, there you go. That'd be a way to find out.
Not now.
Yeah, not anymore.
Maybe. But the other thing is, like, just to get personal here a little bit, we've been accused of stealing stuff before because somebody said it a few years ago, and somebody be like, you stole that. Like, somebody came in and accused us of stealing. Somebody wrote an article like 6 years ago that was about like the 10 things you find in every Tim Burton movie. And that I didn't know existed, that I didn't know I read, and we talked about it on commentaries. I sort of took the lead on the Tim Burton trailer. I watched every single Tim Burton movie all the way through. I kept notes, and yes,
you found
at the end of it, when I watched all the Tim Burton movies and wrote the trailer, because we were drawing from the same sources, I noticed a lot of the same things that were in this article from 6 years ago. And there was somebody that came into one of our forums and was just like, you should be ashamed of yourself. You stole this entire Honest trailer from this 6-year-old article and posted the article. And it's just like, they said it with such conviction. And people do that all the time, and that's not the only time. And this is a big internet. This is a big world, and especially with hacky jokes like this, yes, there are going to be more than one person. I guarantee you if he searched Twitter, he'd find 50 other people that made the same jokes on Twitter.
Oh my God.
Before they were said on Conan O'Brien, because it's an easy joke. I say shit on Twitter, pardon my French, that other people say all the time. I don't scour Twitter to steal material. It's just that...
I don't know if you even have time. The late night writing process is like, midday or early in the morning, and you're looking at what are the news stories, either like the offbeat ones or the 2 or 3 big news stories of the day. And you're right, like you don't even have time to second guess. You just write the first like 5 to 10 jokes that come into your head about it. Most people are going to have a lot of the same takes on that day's news just because it's, they're like 4 or 5, maybe 8 late night shows that are nightly, every single night, all talking about the exact same stories. Every one of them has about a dozen writers on them. That's like hundreds of jokes about the exact same news stories. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of crossover.
Yep. There's absolutely going to be a lot of crossover. And I bristle at it just because, like, for a creative person that works hard at what they do, the worst thing you can do, particularly in the comedy world, is to call someone a thief.
Yeah.
Like, that is a stigmatizing thing that can follow people around forever.
It ruined Carlos Mencia's career.
It's ruined a lot of people's careers, whether it's justified or not. And... like, it's just like when you look at something that's a simple thing, a simple concept, a simple premise, and to immediately point at someone and say, like, you stole that, like, that stuff can be damaging and harmful and follow you around for a long time. So this just kind of pisses me off in the sense of, like, it's like, it seems fairly obvious that this guy's trying to cash in.
Yep.
Like you said, I think he wants a settlement or something or whatever. It's like, these are the easiest jokes in the world. And it just pisses me off because, like, that's a personal thing for me, is when our team or any team puts in a hard work on a project and you release it and someone just like points it out, it's just like, you stole that. It's like, that pisses me off because, like, no, we didn't. We put in time and effort to try to make sure that what we did was the most original thing in the world that we could produce. There's similarities all over the place. It just really... it pisses me off. It's like, F you, man. Like, there are actual cases of joke theft, like that Frolic Jerry thing. There are actual cases of people taking people's actual work, actual hard work, and reposting it without attribution and making a living off of it. Like, that's theft.
Sure.
Stand-up comedy was a mistake.
Comedy was a mistake.
Comedy was a mistake.
Comedy was, in general, the concept of
just
comedy.
all of it. It was all a mistake.
Wow. If you are half decent at what you do and somebody steals from you, short of like taking your novel and erasing your name and writing their own on it or whatever, if someone's stealing a joke from you, like, it's fine. Like,
write more jokes.
I got more. Like, I can do this every day. You clearly need to steal for them. So this guy is just kind of giving away that he doesn't think he can do this.
Yeah.
Like, we've been accused of stealing, and conversely, the other channel, the other humor movie channels, I'm sure have been accused of stealing from us, and we've been accused of stealing from them, because guess what? When we have 5 movie humor channels that are all covering the same movies, that are all drawing from the same source material, yeah, the odds are that at some point in the process, we're all going to make the same joke, because we're all drawing from the same thing. And
they said Martha in BVS,
yeah,
so we're all going to talk
about it. And the idea of just like, you stole it, like, it's just it's maddening to me. So I hope that they find in favor of Conan. I hope that the guy has to pay legal fees. I think this is a ridiculous case, and yeah.
I hope Jordan, what's his name, is representing Conan. Who's the writer?
Jordan Schlansky. For the defense, Your Honor. Yeah, this is, I think this is ridiculous. So there you go. Final thoughts, anyone?
Frolic this guy.
Frolic. There you go. Frolic this guy. Well, that's the show for today. Tomorrow is Fan Friday. The post, if you go to the Fandom Entertainment Community tab here on YouTube, you can ask your questions that we may then answer on tomorrow's show if we don't get too sidetracked. No promises. But we'll have a Roxy Stryer in tomorrow for Fan Friday. And also, Movie Fights will be going out today as usual. However, we've got a busy week here at Screen Junkies, a busy week in the studio. We're taping a bunch of things, so we had to pre-tape this week's Movie Fights. So there will not be live. Unfortunately, Danielle will not be the voice of the people this week.
I love you guys.
But we'll be back next week live. We just had to pre-tape. Plus, we had a great panel that we wanted to get together. That was the time that worked. So you can catch Movie Fights today on Screen Junkies at the same time, but it will be pre-taped. But please feel free to still jump in, share your thoughts, watch the show, enjoy. It'll be fun. Danielle Radford, Spencer Gilbert, thanks for joining me. Anything you guys want to plug?
No.
No, Friday. Plug
Friday.
the weekend.
Fan Friday, plug the weekend.
Concept of it, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow. We're going to answer your questions, cover any news that broke. Until next time.